Okay. I closed the dog inside the house so she's not whining. She wants to come out and play. But she's a Houdini dog. She escapes. So I have to build a dog den to be able to control her if she escapes. Because in fact, she's kind of like an idiot dog. She'll run and you have to chase her, and because she doesn't want to come and she just wants to run and sniff around and bark at people and, you know, be an idiot dog, she almost gets hit by a car. So my kid's solution is get rid of the dog. Well, first of all, I'm not even the one that brought home the dog. They did. Okay? But I've been cleaning up after the dog ever since it's been here. And she's not a bad dog. She's actually pretty smart. And, you know, I've had her for 7-8 months. And, you know, I'm kind of in it for the long haul. So anyway, you know, my kids, they do help. I don't got bad kids. But I think we have a systemic problem in our society where, you know, with the internet, I know when I was a kid, I never talked as disrespectful to my mother under any circumstances, really. And when I was asked to do a chore, you know, I put 150% effort into it. Now, mind you, my mother, you know, parenting techniques were not the same as my, say, techniques. And I don't know, I don't believe in, you know, domestic violence being perpetrated on your children. But at the end of the day, you know, kids have to understand that parents ask kids to do things for a reason, and that's usually to teach them something, so that when the parent is gone, they'll know how to make a dog den. You know, they'll know how to make a fire pit. They'll know how to make a shed. You know, they'll know how to dehydrate food in case of another Fukushima.
Get in the house! Go, man! Fucking dog!
My son did make the compost heap, so that's good. We were wanting a garden, but after Fukushima, I didn't even have the heart to get out here this year and dig around in the dirt. Not that I would have had any time, because what's happened in my life is, okay, there's 8 in my house. You do the math. There's 8 in my house, all right? So I work on a nonprofit. I'd like to think I'm a costume maker, seamstress by trade, but I never really get any time for that. But I do work on a nonprofit, so because of that, I do tend to gather things along the way. I've been working on my nonprofit for 10 years. Here, we'll go upstairs and we'll look in the X Club. And so I have to take some wood and hammer it down. See, I gotta seal this first. So I gotta take some wood and hammer it down. Oh, in there. There's my hand. And then probably seal it so that when it rains, that the water doesn't go down in there. And, you know, obviously I need help. I wanted to make a little, I wanted to extend what I have in here out so the stuff under there doesn't get rained on, because as soon as things get rained on, then, you know, it starts to, you see, it starts to get old and dirty and everything else. And so this is up here now, but it needs to be kind of done. I started blackberries the other day. So for 2 days I've been ripping out blackberries and cleaning up this stuff. And of course I have to wash all the Fukushima radiation from this stuff that's been sitting outside, because I'm supposed to be a magical human being and have all this stuff done in a day, right? So anyway, uh-oh, we still have water. Where's the water coming from? I haven't been in here. I'm trying to prevent water from coming in, and there's water in here. So this is not good. I have to find out where the water is coming from. So I'm still trying. This is supposed to be the kids' X shop. It didn't come together for this year, obviously, because, you know, I've been doing a lot of food dehydrating and that kind of stuff, preparing for the radiation exposure in terms of being able to have a food source that's not contaminated over a period of time. And with these nuclear energy plants spewing out radiation randomly at any point of the day, and people trying to put propaganda in it by saying, oh no, we got it under control, or oh yeah, we'll get it under control soon, you know, like, come on, stop lying. Stop lying. And here's the thing. This is what I don't like. You know, as a human being, you come to the planet for whatever reason. I don't know why we come to the planet, but we do. But that doesn't mean that we belong to somebody else. That doesn't mean that some corporation, we'll just use a corporation because in this way you can't pin it on anybody personally, you know, and it's too hard to catch up with the shareholders. So because it becomes a self-bodying entity that nobody takes blame. And because of that, all of a sudden that entity, that corporation, that piece of paper, it owns what? It owns all of Canada as the winds blow across the sky with the radiation in it that the people don't want to admit that are paid to represent you, to tell you the truth of the matter at hand, because they themselves are somehow intertwined with you know, with the politics around the corporate entity that allows nuclear energy to poison our natural living environments. Like the monarch. From my understanding, somewhere in the history of people and their philosophies and their religions and all this other stuff, you know, suggests that, you know, the people as a mass, as a grand populace together as a whole, like all of Canada, even though we have our independent you know, governing bodies in terms of parliaments and stuff like that, at the end of the day, we're still having to send our paperwork back to the Queen so that we can get approval, or at least, you know, inform her of what we're doing as an independent body that's somehow connected to her, that if she wanted to do some mass experiment at the expense of mankind, you know, we're all subject to that philosophy. And this is where Fukushima has kind of brought me, like, what right does some corporate entity, you know, some governing body that doesn't even have a soul, and I'm not talking about under the foot, I'm talking about inside the body, you know, something, the living soul of a human being. What right does some corporate entity that's based on profit and based on money have to poison millions? I can only speak for myself and my family, you know, but in the end, it does branch out. I'm not alone, I know that, but we all feel helpless because we're subject to the experimentation of what radiation can do to the mass populace once it escapes from negligence. It was not an accident. I will never see it as an accident, because these nuclear power plants were purposely built where they were built for a reason, based on the fact that there could be an accident. That was a choice that these companies chose to make, regardless of an accident. Because at the end of the day, life is built around accidents. But some things you just don't take chances on, unless, of course, you know, there's the higher hierarchy where you know, some bodies, you know, some government bodies, some monarch agency, some cartel, you know, something that has put themselves above humanity and can use us as expendable for an agenda that robs people of basic human rights. So for me, Fukushima, I should have been prepared for Fukushima years ago. I, as a mother, as a you know, a citizen, as a productive member in my society, should have been informed years ago on the preparations of radiation poisoning. In light of the corporate entity going out there under the, you know, it's like an underground movement where they're building and they're implementing and they're trying to sell it to the public in such a way that the public is not aware of the dangers, and we accept it and we move along, as they say, like sheep. You know, well, if you're going to move me like sheep, well, then at least groom me, you know, groom me so that my wool, it can keep me warm in case of an emergency. Don't make it so that my fur falls off and I'm just looking kind of like some, ragged whatever. But under the philosophy, the way we run our governments, and the way we try and manipulate the economy, and the way we do social engineering, and how we divide between the rich and the poor, and how we put limitations on people so that they cannot exceed in life, because you have one bylaw and you have another bylaw and you've got this legislation, and then you've got rhetoric in there where one says this and the other one says no, and it gets to the point where you become trapped. And then along comes some company, and what do? Not only do they trap you, but they start to poison you so that they can study you like some freaking bug. Now, how many people pay attention to that? The vast majority don't. They're too busy living their lives trying to accumulate wealth or just trying to succeed and survive. Okay? Lots of people try to accumulate wealth and base their wealth and their importance on personal possessions, home, car, that kind of stuff. Other people are just trying to survive, where they have a meal and a place to sleep and that type of thing. And then there's just people that just are. They just are. They don't see past, what their nose can provide for them. Okay, so you can't get mad at I'm not mad at the general population for being ignorant, because we're not educated to be critical thinkers, even though they say, you got to think about critical thinking. Yeah, okay, think about critical thinking, but if you're not getting all the information and you're not being told truthfully what's around you and why you can't do the things that you can do, but why you have to, why should I have to come out into my yard and worry about radiation, for crying out loud? I'm getting a dose of radiation every day. And for a government, we'll say the Canadian government, to be shutting down the monitors, the detectors, in April, when the rains were here, and so that they didn't have to be truthful to the public and have to come up with some solutions, and then just hope that the problem goes away. It just doesn't make any sense, because at the end of the day, it makes me think that the Cancer Society has a hand in what's going on with the release of the radiation, because the more that we get cancer, even though we know why we're getting it, but we're just not being told in a mainstream way, okay? This truth is being oppressed. But in terms of a Cancer Society looking for research money, and in 10, 20 years from now, when the numbers go up, or even 5 years from now, when the numbers go up with people getting cancer, they're going to go look for the cause, they're going to look for the cure. Well, we already know what the cause is. It's called 3 nuclear reactors in full meltdown that got into and in other words, they're starting up randomly on their own, shutting down, and they're cracking the ground, and they're spewing out the radiation that they can't even measure with their decimeters or what Geiger counters. They can't even measure what it is, and they can't even measure everything in what it is. And for the ones that want to educate, they're being shut down. They're being silenced. One way or another, to get the information is very, very limited. So to say that the Cancer Society doesn't have a hand in that because they're quiet on the matter too, again, just because it's a non-profit, it's still a corporate entity. But the question is, does the corporate entity have a soul? What runs the corporate entity? It doesn't matter if it's a non-profit or if British Petroleum, BP in the Gulf Coast of Mexico. Where is the soul of the entity? At least with my nonprofit, you're listening to me. I'm the soul. And there's souls around me because it's like those river rocks. Those river rocks represent a soul. Right? But there's